What's up guys, Jake here, and I'm back bringing you guys some more Hearthstone gameplay. Today we're going to be looking at the Dragon Paladin deck. This is more of a control deck. A lot of people have been trying this deck out, especially when Blackrock Mountain, the last wing, dropped. A lot of people were really hyped up about this deck, and it sort of ended up being a little bit overwhelming, or underwhelming rather. Definitely not overwhelming. But I think this refined list that I have here up on the side is one of the better versions of it, and actually performs pretty well, surprisingly. A lot of people have been trying to create this deck more mid-range, like the mid-range Paladin that a lot of people play now, but they were trying to tech in basically just the two Dragon Consorts and then Ysera to try and get a cheap Ysera and kind of keep the deck the same, and I don't think it works that well, to be perfectly honest. It feels too clunky to me to be any good, so I actually decided to go all out with the Dragons. A lot of people say that's incorrect in that it doesn't perform as well all out Dragons, but for me anyway, statistically, this deck is a lot better than any other version of any Dragon Paladin that's come out, and it's a really control-heavy deck, and I think it's a pretty solid deck. So let's start off by taking a look at the deck list. As far as dragons and dragon synergy goes, we have a lot. We run one Fairy Dragon, we run two Blackwing Technician, which is amazing. Having a 3/5 for 3 just to contest the board is fantastic. We run two Hungry Dragon, which is a really good dragon card as well, especially because we have True Silver Champion to just pick off the little 1-drop, as well as Blackwing Corruptor to pick those off as well. We also run two Azure Drake, two Blackwing Corruptor, like I mentioned, two Dragon Consort, obviously, one Chromagus, one Alexstrasza, and one Ysera, obviously. And they're all really good cards. I think the Dragon cards all get such good value when in combination. It just doesn't make sense to not play, as many of them as you can. Some of them aren't that great. Like Fairy Dragon is not the best dragon, but even then, it's not like a terrible card by any means. It's a 3/2 for 2, which is pretty good, and it can't be targeted by spells, so it's not going to get picked off early on by like a Dark Bomb or Frostbolt or something, which is kind of nice. And as far as the synergy goes, it's got a lot of good synergy. You're never going to have usually a Blackwing Technician or Blackwing Corruptor that isn't going to be able to use its ability, which is nice. And like I said, it is a more control deck. We've got cards like Alexstrasza and Ysera that you normally see in control decks. And Alexstrasza is mainly there to contest the board and heal up. If we play a lot of aggro and mid-range decks, a lot of the time they'll do a lot of damage to us before we can really do anything about it. And the Alexstrasza is just there as a little bit of insurance, as well as a nice 8/8 body to contest the board. Nice body. And as far as the other cards go, we've got two Zombie Chow, two Annoyatron. I think this deck list from the video you're watching is a little bit different. I don't remember if I'm not running as many Annoyatrons or if I'm not running Divine Favor, rather for a Shielded Mini-Bot. But basically, my reasoning behind running the Divine Favor, and I believe I took out Shielded Mini-Bot, was to basically help the draw power when playing decks like Control Warrior and Handlock, because those are the decks that seem to be the best against this deck. This deck doesn't really have a lot of burst, so Control Warrior is very good against it, as well as Handlock, but those decks have usually really big hands, and it definitely helps out with Divine Favor to have. That's really the only card that's kind of strange to have. The rest of the deck's pretty standard stuff. We've got Solemn Vigil as well as a draw card. It's great when you play Consecration. You basically get to play it for free. And we have two Azure Drake, as well as Chromagus serves as draw power as well. So this deck definitely has enough draw power, I think. And it's all teched out very well against the meta right now, I believe. It does very well against aggro decks, surprisingly, because of the Zombie Chow, Annoyatron, Fairy Dragon, and especially the Blackwing Technician. Blackwing Technician is an amazing card against aggro decks. It usually goes 2 or 3 for 1, which is just great. And statistically speaking, this deck, for me, had a 73% win rate. Now, this is at a lower rank at the time that I was playing it. I've been playing more Control Warrior now just because I think it's a little bit better of a deck for laddering. But this deck did very well. The only decks it struggled against, like I said, were Handlock and Control Warrior, the two main ones. It did well against mid-range decks as well as aggro decks. Face Hunter, Mech Mage, that kind of stuff didn't really bother it too much, as well as it did well against the mid-range Hunter, mid-range Shaman, surprisingly, and mid-range Druid. So definitely a good deck in my opinion. And now I can get on to actually commentating the actual game. I just wanted to go over the list and the statistics for you guys. The beginning of the game is not that exciting anyway. And here, on this play I made, I could have traded the Blackwing Corruptor into the Dr. Boom and then played the other Blackwing Corruptor and killed it, but my reasoning behind playing the Azure Drake was that obviously it was cheaper. I could play it for cheap. And I was digging mainly for Big Game Hunter, Outdoor Peacekeeper, or Consecration were the main ones I was looking for to try and clear the board a little more, get rid of that Dr. Boom. But unfortunately, I didn't do that. But this next turn, we should be good to go. He's probably going to trade the Dr. Boom into one of my minions, and if he does that, then I can just kill it with the other Blackwing Corruptor in my hand. And so it should be fine here. Yeah, he trades the Dr. Boom into the Azure Drake rather, which leaves him with 3, which is the perfect amount for the Blackwing Corruptor. The only thing in this deck that I find kind of annoying is it seems as though a lot of the times the math doesn't work out well, and you have to make some awkward plays. Like a lot of the times, you know, if there's a Sludge Belcher or something, you might have a True Silver Champion and a Blackwing Corruptor available to you, and it's just like you don't really want to, you know, overkill with the using both to take out the Sludge Belcher. It just seems like kind of a waste, but I don't know, it just seems it's kind of how it is right now. And actually what we have on the board forces our opponent to play Force of Nature. Now that could mean he runs 2 Force of Nature, or that could just mean that he's really afraid of this board, which seems a little bit strange, although it is a pretty good board, I suppose. You know, the math works out well that everything gets cleared, but he has 30 HP, which seems a little bit strange. But here I can either drop down the Thorson and the Annoyatron, or we can just go ahead with the Chromagus. I decided to go with the Chromagus simply because I want more cards in my hand. I think the card draw is very important. But if he has a Silence, Chromagus isn't very good. I've actually been preferring Nefarian as of late, because if it gets killed right away by like a BGH or something, you still get the value of the 2 cards out of it. And a lot of people underestimate the 2 random cards it gives you. They're actually very good just to have all the time. I say the same thing about Neptulon. I think that it's a good card, even though the Murlocs are a lot of the times overwhelming. At the end of the game, when you just need cards to play, it's just nice to have. So unfortunately, our Chromagus does get silenced, but here we can go ahead and drop down the Thorson and the Annoyatron. So Thorson's more than likely going to live and give us a lot of good value on our cards, which is great, because the cards in this deck anyway, like I said, are just fantastic value cards. Hungry Dragon, Alexstrasza, just really good cards to have. And here, because I'm playing more of a mid-range or control variant, actually this is one of my opponents playing, appeared in the beginning at least, to be a token druid, where they're playing Violet Teacher as well as Power of the Wild to just try and get a crazy looking board with a lot of 2/2s from the Violet Teacher, just a lot of value cards. And but it's turning out to be more of a deck that's just looking more like just your standard mid-range ramp druid. And there he plays the Mind Control tech, which could have been very bad. I wasn't accounting for that, which definitely makes me think it's more of a ramp druid that just has Violet Teachers teched in for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but I don't know. It's just weird. I'm wondering what he has to cut to fit all this stuff in, because he's running the Mind Control tech and he's running the Violet Teachers as well. And so I'm wondering what he doesn't have in the deck, because he's still running Force of Nature actually. So I definitely have to see. But our board's definitely going to be pretty nice. We're going to be able to play Azure Drake, probably the Hungry Dragon as well, which is just fantastic. And like I said before, all the synergy with these cards all together just makes it good, I think. A lot of people were trying to play, just like I said, the normal stuff in the mid-range Paladin, like the Quartermasters and stuff like that, along with Dragon Consorts and stuff like that, and it just didn't seem to work for me. It just felt really clunky, that you never had what you needed to play the cards that you wanted at the right time. But running a lot of dragons, I think, is pretty good. And like I said, there's really no bad dragons in this deck. Some of them don't really work that well in this deck. Like Azure Drake isn't fantastic, simply because you don't really have any damaging spells besides Consecration. Although there you saw the 3 damage Consecration was huge and allowed us to clear the board very easily, and just leave that Ancient of Lore with just 2 health and clear the rest of the board, which is awesome. So this game's actually wrapping up pretty quickly. Our board is just insane right now. We've got quite a bit of damage on board, and our opponent doesn't have much HP to do anything about it. So I think we're pretty much about to win here. There's really nothing my opponent can do. He can kill that Annoyatron, but that's not going to really matter. I mean, we're just 1 damage off, I believe, if I can read correctly. Actually 2 since he used his hero power, but I mean, it's definitely wrapping up here. There's not a whole lot my opponent can do. He can go ahead and use Power of the Wild just for the 3/2, which is pretty bad, honestly. It's definitely not looking too good for my opponent. And there's a True Silver Champion I top deck, which is actually lethal if you add it all up. So that's going to be the end of the game here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, let me know if you enjoy when I just go over the deck list and the statistics more and the matchups, or if you prefer when I commentate the actual game, because lately I've been more focused on the actual statistics and deck list as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.